As we move on to verse 2, we begin to see this hymn, and I want, again, as in verse 1, I want to consider these questions again. So I'm going to read them again. So I want you to continue throughout our study, and throughout not just our study, as you walk through your daily life, think about these questions and ponder them and see what you really think in them. The first question is, how do the lyrics of Leaning on the Everlasting Arms provide comfort in your own life experiences? And the second question is, in what ways does this hymn encourage us to trust in God's providence and protection? Now, the lyrics of verse 2 say, "Oh, how sweet to walk in this pilgrim way, leaning on the everlasting arms. Oh, how bright the path grows from day to day, leaning on the everlasting arms." So the pilgrim way. The Christian life is often described as a pilgrimage, a spiritual journey towards a holy destination. Hebrews 11:13 through 14 in the New Living Translation reflects this idea, saying, "All these people died still believing what God had promised them. They did not receive what was promised, but they saw it all from a distance and welcomed it. They agreed that they were foreigners and nomads here on earth. Obviously, people who say such things are looking forward to a country they can call their own." So see, this passage underscores that transient nature of earthly life and the Christian journey towards a heavenly home. Because this world, it's not our home. We're just, there's a song that says, we're just passing through, but it's not this song, but there is. So it goes on to talk about the act of leaning on God for support. As in the chorus, this line emphasizes reliance on God's strength and support. Excuse me. Psalm 55:22 says, "Give your burdens to the Lord, and he will take care of you. He will not permit the godly to slip and fall." This verse encourages believers to lean on God and trust in his care. The next part of the verse talks about a brighter path, brightening the path. The idea of the path of life becoming brighter is reminiscent of Proverbs 4:18, where it says, "The way of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day." This suggests that as one grows in faith and in their walk with God, their spiritual path becomes clearer and more illuminated by God's truth and guidance. Now, I for one, can speak to that, the experience of that, as I draw closer to God and as I walk with him more day by day. I know that I draw closer to him and things become clearer to me. I'm not saying I've got it all together either, because believe me, I do not. But things do become clearer as we walk closer to God and as we grow in our faith and our walk with him. It also suggests everlasting support. And this is repeated several times. Obviously, it's this line of leaning on the everlasting arms is repeated after every phrase, really, within each stanza. But the repeated line reinforces the theme of divine support and protection. Now, Isaiah 40, verse 31 offers a similar sentiment, It says, "But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will not they will walk and not faint." This verse is talking about the sustaining power of God for those who rely on him. Now, if you've been walking with the Lord for a while, you know his sustaining power. You've felt it. You've been there. When things were challenging to you, did you make it through? Did you feel God lifting you up? Did you feel his arms around you as you leaned into them? That's what this is talking about. It's talking about his power and through his strength, we're able to lean on him and he supports us and sustains us. And now if we were to summarize verse 2, we see that it reflects the joy and assurance found in the Christian journey, emphasizing the pilgrimage nature of the faith, the increasing clarity and brightness of the spiritual path, and the continuous, unwavering support found in God's presence. The verse beautifully relates the Christian experience of walking in faith, supported by the strength and guidance of God. I love how that verse talks of that. It's just so encouraging. Now, as we move on to verse 3, when we look at verse 3, again, I want us to consider the same questions we did in the first two verses. So let me tell you them again. How do the lyrics of leaning on the everlasting arms provide comfort in your own life experiences? In what ways does this hymn encourage us to trust God's providence and protection? Now, if you have answers and you want to share them, feel free to share them in the comments so others can talk about how they find their comfort and in the not just this hymn, but in God. Now, the lyrics of verse 3 say, and I do love this verse, "What have I to dread? What have I to fear? Leaning on the everlasting arms. I have blessed peace with my Lord so near, leaning on the everlasting arms." Think about this. Freedom from fear and dread. This first line reflects the Christian belief in God's protective presence, which alleviates fear and dread. Isaiah 41:10 is particularly relevant. In the New Living Translation, it says, "Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand." I love that this Bible passage encourages us as believers to not fear. And that this verse in the song is going along with that. Don't fear. What do we have to fear? We don't. As long as we're trusting in God, we have God's constant support and strength. We don't need to fear and we don't need to dread anything this world throws at us. So there's a reliance on God's support. Continuing the theme from the previous verse, verses actually, and throughout the entire song, the line "leaning on the everlasting arms" emphasizes the comfort and security found in God's everlasting arms. Psalm 46:1 puts it this way: "God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble." God is our refuge. Think about God. He is your refuge. He is your source of strength, especially in challenging times. And because we don't have to fear, and because He is our strength, we can have blessed peace in His divine presence. It says, I have blessed peace with my Lord so near. This talks of the peace that comes from the nearness of God. Now, Philippians 4:6-7 offers some insight into this. It says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. This passage highlights the peace that surpasses all understanding, stemming from a close relationship with God. We don't get that peace anywhere else. Without a close relationship with God, we cannot have that peace that passes understanding. Now, it continues with the leaning on the everlasting arms. It's repeated throughout the entire hymn. It's the theme of trusting and finding security in God. The first part of Deuteronomy 33:27, which is the verse that inspired the hymn, reiterates this concept, where it says, the eternal God is our refuge, is your refuge, The eternal God is your refuge, and His everlasting arms are under you. It portrays God as a steadfast refuge and support. Think about that as He's our refuge, and His everlasting arms are under us, holding us tight, not letting us go. Verse 3 of this song eloquently summarizes the entire Christian experience of overcoming fear and dread through reliance on God. It speaks of profound peace and reassurance that we have in the closeness of the Lord, and is underlined by the repeated affirmation of leaning on God's everlasting arms for support and protection. Think about God. Think about your closeness to Him. Think about how not only Scripture, but the lyrics to the song draw you to be closer to Him, to worship Him, to thank Him for what He's done, to not fear because you're relying on Him.